All right, if you're a designer, you know the grind, right? The endless tweaks, the long hours. But what if I told you the whole process? I mean, from that first spark of an idea all the way to handing off code to developers could be completely transformed. Today, we're getting past the hype. We're going to walk through a real, practical roadmap for putting AI to work in your UX and UI design. Let's get into it. And look, this isn't some far-off sci-fi dream. This is what's possible right now with an AI-powered workflow. Seriously, picture it. You cut through all the usual noise, you get right to the fun, creative part of your job, and you do it all before your morning coffee even gets cold. That's the future we're breaking down today. Okay, but before we jump into the shiny new thing, let's get real for a second about the old way. Because, let's face it, it's kind of broken. We've all been stuck in those endless revision cycles, right? The frustrating bottlenecks, that feeling of just creative drain. Yeah, we all know those pain points a little too well. And here's the difference in a nutshell. On one side, you've got the manual grind. You know, the endless meetings, the pixel pushing, the stuff that just eats up your day. But on the other side, the AI-powered flow. This is where all that tedious stuff gets automated. And you get to focus on what really matters. The big picture, the strategy, the actual creative work. It's a huge shift, moving from just being a technician to becoming a true creative strategist. So the big question is, how do we actually get there? Well, it's not just about downloading some new app. It's about changing how you think, adopting a whole new system. So let me show you. I'm going to walk you through a simple 4-step journey that can totally transform your workflow right from the very beginning. And here it is. 4 stages. Simple, but super powerful. First, a smart brief from a single prompt. Then, you automatically generate your whole design system. Step 3, you're building full screens just by telling the AI what you want. And finally, a clean export for developers with 1 click. This is the roadmap we're gonna follow. All right, let's get practical. Let's start with step 1. How do you take a simple idea, just a thought in your head, and turn it into the solid foundation for a whole design project? Well, it all kicks off with a simple prompt. I mean, just look at how simple this is. You're not drafting some huge, complex document. It's more like you're just having a conversation. You give the AI a clear goal, a mission, just like you would with any other creative partner on your team, and boom, here's what you get back. In literally seconds, you have a structured, strategic foundation to build on. And notice, the AI isn't just spitting out random stuff. It gives you actionable things like brand values, trust, dynamics, clarity, a tone of voice, and it even gives you the core job to be done, or JTBD. That's the real problem your user needs to solve. You even get your key colors and typography rules. This right here becomes your North Star for the whole project. So, how does this all connect? Well, the magic ingredient here is something called design tokens. The best way to think about them is like they're the atoms of your design. The AI takes those words from the brief, trustworthy blue, and turns them into actual data. The hex code for that color, the specific font size, the shadow properties. They're the bridge that turns abstract ideas into concrete, usable code. Okay, so let's talk about one of the biggest headaches for any designer on a big project: consistency. It feels like a constant battle, right? Trying to keep everything aligned? Well, what if you could get near perfect consistency across the board with basically zero manual effort? The secret sauce here is a really powerful technique called few-shot learning. Now I know, it sounds super technical, but the idea behind it is actually incredibly simple. Instead of you having to write out hundreds of detailed rules for the AI, you just show it. You give it a couple of examples of what you want, and it learns the pattern from there. So let's break down how this actually works. Imagine you design just one card component, exactly the way you want it. The AI looks at it and analyzes everything: the spacing, the corner radiuses, the font sizes, the whole shebang. And from that point on, every single time you ask for a new component, another card, a new widget, whatever, it automatically follows those exact same rules. You get to be the creative director, not the consistency police. Now, this all sounds pretty amazing, but what does it actually mean for the business, for the bottom line? Let's talk about the real, measurable return on investment here, because this is where these efficiency gains become an absolute game changer. Let's start with a big, hard number: 40%. Just think about all the time you normally spend on project setup, the briefing, creating the design system from scratch. Teams are seeing a 40% cut in that upfront time. What used to take weeks of back-and-forth meetings and manual grunt work can now be done in just a few hours. That's huge. And the savings don't stop after lunch either. Check this out. A 50% reduction in what we call design debt. You know what that is? It's all those little inconsistencies, the slightly off-brand components, the outdated elements that build up over time and make the product a nightmare to maintain. Slashing that debt in half means your product is easier to update and way faster to iterate on down the line. I mean, this chart really puts it into perspective, doesn't it? A project that used to take 10 weeks can now be done in 4. Screens that would have taken an entire day to mock up can be generated in minutes. You're not just working a little bit faster here, you are fundamentally crushing the timeline and getting your product to market in a fraction of the time. Okay, so this brings us to the big question, the one that's probably on your mind. What does all this mean for me, the designer? Is AI going to make my job obsolete? And the answer is a hard no. It absolutely does not. But it does change our role. It elevates it to something much, much more strategic. Just look at this shift. The AI takes over as the technician. It does the repetitive stuff, the pixel pushing, fixing inconsistencies. That frees you up to be the strategist. Your value isn't about perfectly aligning a button anymore. It's about building the narrative for the product. It's about deep user empathy. And it's about making those critical, high-level creative calls that, frankly, an algorithm just can't make. But of course, this isn't some magic wand. You have to be smart about it. There are definitely pitfalls to avoid. The biggest thing to remember is that AI is your partner, not your replacement. It doesn't replace real user research. Generic prompts will give you generic design, garbage in, garbage out. And most importantly, your human oversight, your eye for quality and nuance is still absolutely essential. Think of yourself as a curator of the final product, not just a consumer of whatever the AI spits out. So there you have it. We've looked at the broken past, we've walked through the new AI roadmap, and we've seen how it totally reimagines the role of the designer. This isn't some far-off vision anymore. The tools are here, the workflow is here. The future isn't coming to take your job, it's here to supercharge it. So really, the only question left is, what are you going to create first?